to encourage, to get that mix, to encourage retail. And the idea then was that was the better spot for retail, but it's become obvious that it's not. I'm trying to see if I can see the.
Yeah, so the note says the warehouse land use category may also include limited support retail service and office land uses. Multifamily residential land uses may be located on parcel 6 at a later date, pending a comp plan amendment requesting a land use designation allowing those uses.
And that's to the west. So the warehouse parcels are the ones that are in the lighter lighter tan color. And so that is a different area. And so what we wanted to do is at least leave some placeholders for additional multifamily further to the west. But it doesn't relate to the retail that's right there on Airport Road that's the subject.
But the PUD only includes 300 multifamily dwellings, is that correct?
Yes, as it stands today. And so with this being 252, and we do have trade-offs in terms of trips and that would allow for reductions in, say, warehouse and increases in multifamily. So we do have the ability to trade out uses as long as the transportation and utility impacts are held the same.
So I guess it just comes back to the question of what is this language about comp plan amendment requesting that designation changed?
I think that's, again, another holdover from when the PUD was established. It wasn't really, I don't remember this as part of the DRI, but I think it was more of a PUD issue. And that was back before we started to see the state legislation, or the state legislature change and try to encourage or allow communities to approve residential within certain types of industrial and commercial districts. So I think the thinking there is that we would want the opportunity to allow residential at some point, depending on the type of warehouse or business park or whatever whatever the use ended up being, to try and make it as interchangeable as possible. At that time, expecting that we would need to amend the comprehensive plan. Now that the state statute has kind of relaxed a lot of the restrictions that had been in place traditionally that affected local governments, that's much less of an issue. I think we would still need to clean that up should we get a multifamily request on this property, on lot 6 in the future. But that's something that we would deal with depending on the specific plan that came forth at that time.
The answer to your question, with the magic of glasses and getting really close, that says multifamily residential uses can occur on parcel 6, which is not what we're talking about today, with a comprehensive plan amendment. So that provision, I don't know why that would be gone. Is that still in here? So that provision's still in the new one, and that relates to parcel 6. And it's just saying, I think that parcel 6 is deeper into the park, and I think that was kind of a maybe when we went through the PUD, but it would require a comprehensive plan amendment to do multifamily on parcel 6. That's what that says. And we're not changing that. And we're not seeking multifamily on parcel 6.
Yeah, I was, again, not a part of the first one, so I'm trying to understand what allowances were previous versus where we're allowing now today. Obviously, you look at the legend, there is no multifamily color, right? So I read note 1 as you can utilize multifamily in parcel 6. You just have to go through this process to do that. So us essentially saying, yes, you can move it to parcel 12, take out that note, no big deal, we're cool. I don't know if that was the original intent of those uses. I don't know if that makes sense.
Well, I think Tim just said that he's not changing any, this isn't changing anything as it relates to parcel 6. He's only talking about the parcel that's along Airport Road.
I agree,
And-
except for the fact that that is all inclusive of one note.
And you're right, there's not a separate multifamily category, but it falls within other categories. So multifamily is allowed within the orange, the 2 parcels that are orange, except in the past, there was a prohibition of multifamily in the lot 9, parcel 12. And so multifamily, you already said, there's 300 units allowed within this entire development. It was allowed within the orange category, but there was a prohibition on Lot 9. That's what we're removing. So we're not creating anything new, we're not introducing anything new, other than the allowance of the placement of some of the multifamily units on Lot 9.
And then I guess my next question is, was the surrounding areas notified? Have we heard anything from local residents? And did you engage with any of the locals just about what this change might be?
We didn't engage with Rooms to Go warehouses to our north, or the subdivision to the east, Lakeside,
Like Laurel Highlands.
whatever that was. I didn't do any better than Philip. But they would have received, I don't know what notice that, whether there's the notice sent out on a minor modification.
It was just the placement of the sign, there was no notification sent out.
And they are all located adjacent to a industrial park that's been approved for about 20 years. So I think they're pretty familiar with the activity that is going on in that
Well,
Lakeland Central Park.
the houses that abut Airport Road at Lake Laurel Highland, they have quite a buffer with retention ponds, so they're set back off the road quite a ways, and they have some screening with trees and whatnot between them.
And I think part of that's
I'd
a
rather look at
commercial
an apartment building
mode
than a
too.
warehouse.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I only bring up that question again because I was not familiar with this parcel, so I did go back and watch the previous hearing, and one of the comments that a lady made was, I wouldn't want 300 multifamily dwellings I don't know if it was this parcel or the parcel to the south. I know that was controversial and a concern.
That was from the development
Correct.
that is to the south, on the south side of that spine road. It wasn't it was not from Lakes,
Yeah, it's Carolyn Lakes.
it was not from Lake Laurel Highlands.
Yeah, and the history of our case was, watch now that I got this figured out. These are residential lots. Lakeland Central Park has purchased most of them. But back in the day, any of the comments that we had in our hearings came from lot owners here. And so they were talking about multifamily in this area. They were not residents of that spot.
I have a quick question. The smaller orange parcel, that's included in what we're voting on, correct? Or no?
No,
Okay, all right. And this is just for my curiosity. If retail didn't work up there, the retail services, do you think that would be a candidate for smaller retail services?
I think so.
they need them.
I agree. I think so. I think it's ideal, but I'm not the engineer and I'm not the developer who determines the market. But yes, I would think, because there aren't any I guess this is approved for some level of commercial, retail on the other side. But I'm with you. I would think that would be a good location, but I don't know what happens there.
Thank you.
And in terms of the current allowances through the development agreement, the overall development allows for 5 million square feet of industrial warehouse, 125 hotel rooms, 650,000 square feet of office, 225,000 square feet of retail, and 300 multifamily dwelling units. So this is definitely a sizable development that's intended to really have a wide palette of uses to help really create kind of a sense of place in this part of Lakeland.
Any other questions of Mr. Campbell?
And one last question.
Try to get you down, I couldn't do it.
Recognizing the extension of the parcels for access purposes, that's correct. I think these were perhaps, there was a phasing of construction associated with the original PUD. And I understand perhaps multifamily was the latter phase. Are we looking at possibly that changing?
So as I think Chuck mentioned, so phase one development is occurring here. And you can see the pad if you're on the Parkway being developed. It's a building being developed here and here. So phase one is being developed. They're working on all of the plans and approvals to kind of gear up for phase two. And I believe the multifamily's in phase two. And so part of our, one of the discussions we've had is if we plat phase two, even though this isn't ready yet, that we would plat this. So we'll move forward however the city requires, but it's not phase one, so we're not having to move the phase for the multifamily.
And then my last question is, if we don't approve this today, where would the multifamily development fall in this plan?
Hopefully, in the unlikely event you would do that. I don't know. This site at some point, if they acquired the other parcels, and this is, as you can see, the dark green, this is wet, so it's not developable. And so this is a more difficult site, so I don't know if it would be there or if we would lose the opportunity to have multifamily within this, within this industrial park. And I think that's part of the staff's desire all along, and that's why the placement of these types of uses, the commercial retail and the multifamily residential is along Airport Road, as Chuck mentioned, because it's a great transition from the single-family residential to the industrial. And like I said, they've approved some commercial here, and at some point if we have commercial. So it's really an appropriate planning transition into what will be all, industrial and distribution facilities.
So what I'm hearing is really, this is the last real potential for multifamily in this development.
I think so. I don't know, again, I'm not the engineer.
I mean, are you asking if they're planning to put more apartment buildings? Is that what you're asking?
No, I'm again curious that their original plan did not allow for it, this location, yet the overall plan provided for 300 multifamily. Where did they plan to put it?
There had been discussions earlier on about somewhere, kind of where the first curve, there on the spine road coming off of Airport Road.
Parcel 6?
Yeah, I think parcel 6, and in that area would be the more likely spot for multifamily at that time. I think that because of, the importance now of Weston Park Boulevard and Airport Road and just what we're seeing with the multifamily market is that, I think we all as staff agree too that this really is much better situated for not only road access, but also transit service. The developer's working on developing a transit stop that would be located on Airport Road and the Citrus Connection. We're working with them to potentially realign or better serve this area as well. But it's better for them to be able to do that off of Airport Road than more internal to the development. So I think it was just, like Matt had said, the retail market is a lot softer out here than what it was. And the multifamily is so much stronger that it just really works from a connectivity and a location standpoint.
And further, since as far as the history of this, an iteration of this plan earlier than, of course, what is proposed, or that had orange here. And so, as far as the original intent would be along that frontage was all orange and multifamily. And at some point, as we went into this site development plan, it was determined that may not be developable. And I'll tell you, if you ask where other uses are going, I think from an engineering perspective, they've determined that maybe they were kind of quick on the gun there. So I don't know if at some point they come back and propose to change that and have a mix of commercial retail or the rest of the multifamily. I don't know, but that we'd have to come back and go through the whole that would not be a minor modification to do all of that.
Any other questions of Mr. Campbell? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Any comments from the public?
Again, Philip Scarce for the record. There are no conditions associated with this. The PUD will be modified to include this new attachment C. The previous attachment C, again, will be stricken, will be deleted. And this new attachment C with the language taken out, the prohibition for multifamily residential uses on parcel 9, lot 12. I might have got that backwards, but yeah, that's the only thing that's occurring here. Again, the site plan that we showed you was just conceptual. They'll have to come back through site plan review. They'll have to comply with all the standards of the land development code, including the buffers along Airport Road, and their own development requirements there. So, again, staff is recommending approval of the minor modification with a new attachment C.
I hear a motion to approve the staff's recommendation subject to the adjustments that were just mentioned to us.
I move to approve staff's recommendation on this project.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Board.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, we move into our general meeting. And item 3 is the review of the March meeting minutes.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Okay. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes as presented to us?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Item 4, major modification of plan unit development zoning to allow for the construction of a 41,000 square foot field house building, a 4,000 square foot expansion of an existing child care building, and relocation of existing off-street parking facilities on property located at 3620 Cleveland Heights Boulevard, Lakeland Family YMCA. Owner, Young Men's Christian Association, applicant Shelton, Rice, Peterson, and Myers, PA. And note, this is continued from a previous meeting.
Good morning again. For the record, Philip Scarce, Principal Planner with Community Economic Development. Correct, Mr. Roberts, this was continued from the March meeting. This was originally heard as public hearing in February. We're coming to today for a recommendation. As you recall, last month I stated that there were still some conditions that needed to be revised and modified, specifically the transportation conditions, and those have been, we have worked those through with the applicant, and they'll be up here in a minute to discuss their opinions on the staff memo. But again, this is the 3620 Cleveland Heights Boulevard. This is the YMCA that we all know on Cleveland Heights Boulevard. Here's the site here, existing Y in Westover. This is Carlton Palmore Elementary School. This is Peterson Park. Very familiar with the area. The request was to add a 41,000 square foot field house building here. Change the parking configuration. Westover will be more of the primary frontage, more of the access, which it is today, really. But it's more of a focus on Westover. This is the main building here, and then there's an expansion of the child care center in the rear. Won't go into too many details. Again, this is the little bit blown up here. This is the field house. And then the expansion of the child care center is pretty much already under roof already. They're just going to be filling that in, adding more livable square footage per se, or just gross floor area to that child area here. There will be primary access points along west over here, again with the new parking configuration. This also includes, they're also showing portions of Three Parks Trail, or did I get the name of the trail right there, Chuck? I
Yeah,
apologize.
Three Parks Trail.
Three Parks Trail, yeah, my apologies. Getting names wrong. And then they also have a access, pedestrian access connected to the field house as well. There's an existing wetlands here. There's nothing that is being modified. There is a city canal that runs along here down to, from under Cleveland Heights Boulevard over to Lake John. That I did get a call from the neighbors to the north saying that they want, that keep that canal acting as a buffer to the Y, where there's nothing proposed within that canal. That will remain city-owned and maintained canal that's not being modified. The only thing we're doing is adding that field house. Won't go through all the details of the staff report. We'll just give you the history of the Y and explanation of the changes. We're going to go into, I'll go into the conditions. This is coming to you with a recommendation of approval. I'm going to go over the general conditions, and then we'll have Mr. McCloskey, our transportation planner, discuss the transportation conditions. So we are recommending approval. It is recommended that the request for a major modification of the PUD as described above in Exhibits A, B, 1, 2, and 3, and 4 be approved subject to the following conditions. Attachment G of Ordinance 3470 as amended, land use intensities, PUD 30, B, permitted uses, indoor and outdoor recreational uses operated in conjunction with the YMCA. And then C was stricken, the setbacks, excuse me. C language, the minimum building setbacks shall be shown as shown on the revised site development plan as attached in Exhibit 1. Access, the main point of access to the property shall be from Westover Street. And that's that condition. Landscape buffer, a landscape buffering shall be in accordance with Section 4.5 of the Land Development Code. F signage, a double-faced prime identification sign may be located on the northeast corner of Cleveland Heights Boulevard and Entrance Road to Curtis Peterson Park in accordance with the attached sign plan proposed with sign drawing in Exhibit 2, subject to the maximum sign area of 72 square feet per face. And again, that language was already there, approving the sign that was already there. They have a new sign exhibit that will be attached, a more updated sign that will be attached as an exhibit, and it should be in your packet as well. G, the site development in accordance with the plan submitted with the application, the copy which is included in Exhibit 1 with the approval of the Director of Community Economic Development. Minor changes will be made at the time of site plan review without requiring modification to the PUD. H, architectural elevations. The Fieldhouse building located adjacent to Cleveland Heights Boulevard shall be developed as follows. Maximum building height shall not exceed 36 feet. The building shall be designed and constructed substantially in accordance with the elevations included in Exhibits 3 and 4. Both the field house and the child care facility expansion shall not be subject to the ground floor transparency requirements in Section 3.4.7 of the Land Development Code. With the approval of the Director of Community Economic Development, minor changes shall be made at the time of building permit review without requiring a modification to the PUD. And at this time, I'm going to turn the presentation over to our Senior Transportation Planner, Terry McCloskey, to discuss the transportation improvements conditions.
Good morning, I'm Terry McCloskey. I'm a transportation planner with the Department of Community and Economic Development. And I'm going to go over the transportation part of this. I'm going to read it as it is for the record, and then maybe I can explain it a little bit. With city funding, the southbound left turn lane at Cleveland Heights Boulevard and Westover shall be lengthened to accommodate future left turn vehicles queuing. To minimize the impacts on an existing residential driveway located to the west of Cleveland Heights Boulevard, on the west side of Cleveland Heights Boulevard, north of the intersection, the turn lane is expected to be extended for an appropriate length of 40 feet. During site plan review, the city and applicant shall determine who will perform this work based on factors such as cost and impact to the traveling public. You get a light head staring up, you know. So there's a turn lane that leads into the Y. And the way that they were built in the past, they have these really long tapers on them. And we actually observed, and their traffic analysis showed that if we could just get that turn lane back, we could kind of accommodate the demand of the vehicles that we're going to want to turn there in the future, right? So that's part of that, is to get that turn lane lengthened back so that you can clear that lane and people can keep going. If you've ever seen it out there, it's almost like a one-way, and you know, they get gaps to turn, so that's that improvement. Internal ADA compliant pedestrian routes is generally depicted in the site development plan shall be provided, which connect to the local sidewalk network and the three parks trails, right? And you can see on the site plan, they've done a good job of giving us pedestrian network connectivity. Bicycle parking shall be provided in accordance with section 4.11.6 of the Land Development Code and Index 900 of the Public Works Engineering Standards Manual, and that's basically a parking area for bicycles with a certain type of bike rack and within, I think, 40 feet of the entrance. At the time of the site plan review, the new driveway connection to Westover Street shall be designed to ensure adequate throat length and compliance with the Land Development Code. That's kind of a normal thing. We wanted to point out, I don't think there's any more, is there? No. Okay, we wanted to point out that there was two other things that came up. We had asked them to provide lighting at the Westover and Cleveland Heights intersection, because only half the intersection is well lighted on the south side, I think. And I think they were, you know, they were talking about doing it, but the Lakeland Electric has stepped in and has put that under the street light fund, and they're going to put the other pole out there, so it'll be a nice, safe intersection. We also wanted to get the markings, the crosswalk markings out there in that intersection redone. Turns out there's a resurfacing job coming through, so they're going to be redone under that. But the intersection will be nice and safe for, you know, the people that go over to the park and go over to the Y and go over to the school. And I think that's about it, unless Chuck wants to add more to that.
No, I think, Terry, you covered, you covered it well as far as the traffic analysis. You know, the project generates about 1,300 additional daily trips, about 120 in the morning and 150 in the PM peak. But the conditions as they're written will address the additional impact associated with the project. And then the site plan really does address connectivity to the Three Parks Trail, which is funded through DOT under design by the city of Lakeland and scheduled for construction later this year. So once that's done, then we'll complete the Three Parks Trail loop around the 3.5-mile loop that just south of from Edgewood all the way down to the Y in Peterson Park. So we're anxiously waiting for that to happen. So this is all, everything's all starting to come together at this location at the same time.
I have a quick question. The ingress and egress driveway for the Y, does that directly, is that directly across from the ingress to Cleveland Heights Animal Hospital, or is that one a little bit farther east?
There's an offset in there. It was really kind of a balancing act to try to get the driveway connection as far back from Cleveland Heights as possible, but also not impact the large trees that are just to the east of that. So we're comfortable that the driveway placement there won't create any additional operational issues with the animal hospital to the south.
Oh, I'm happy to see the extra 40 feet because I just drove that yesterday.
It's busy.
It's very busy.
The other egress or the other exit that used to be on Cleveland Heights is closed also.
Exactly.
So a little safer there too.
What's the increase in parking spaces? I mean, you're adding a lot of square footage to this facility, and I know parking is always a challenge in their parking lots as they exist now.
Looks like. I think there was the same, let me zoom in on this plan here.
I mean, I live by there and walk by there
Shared
pretty
drive.
much every day. There's always empty parking.
Hours I go, I guess it's not case. They're parking in the grass under trees and everything else.
There it is.
267.
158 to
285 spaces, as opposed to 158 spaces.
We added a-
That'll help.
Definitely a substantial increase in recognition that you go out there sometimes a day, that parking lot is just slam full.
Yeah, I mean, they're parking in the road, they're parking on the grass under the trees and everywhere else.
I've never seen them park on the road.
I think people who go to Peterson Park for the baseball games are perhaps the ones that park in the road, but I've never seen people from the Y do
Right,
that.
because the
Oh, I
entrance,
have on
Yeah.
Saturday mornings
Have
and
you?
stuff, yeah, yeah.
Well, this'll help. There you go.
Definitely, definitely.
Any other questions for me? Turn it back over to Phil.
Make the sign nice.
And I'm going to ask Shelton Rice, Peterson Myers, to see if he has any words on staff's presentation and recommendation.
Looks like a location of existing off-street parking, so.
Good morning. For the record, my name is Shelton Rice. I'm an attorney with the law firm of Peterson and Myers, address 225 East Lemon Street, excuse me, Lakeland, Florida. Today I'm here on behalf of YMCA. I'm sorry about the cough. My 4-year-old who started preschool has brought home every bug that he's come across. With that said, Mr. Scarce, we appreciate your presentation and all the staff's work. We continued this at the last hearing so that we had a little more time to work through the conditions, to iron out some of those details. I believe we've done that. I believe the conditions that Mr. Scarce has presented are acceptable. We agree with all the statements that they've made. We think this is a good project. We're improving the parking. We're providing, this additional 135 parking spaces, providing this new Jenkins Field House. So this will be a general benefit to the public. We think this is a good project with a good team, and we appreciate all the staff and the city's support in getting this done. So we'll stand for any specific questions you have. We appreciate your time. We request a favorable vote. Thank you.
Any further questions? No, we're not acting on
Hey,
this.
Sheldon.
yes,
We are.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other comments from?
No, sir.
Okay. Do we hear a motion then to approve the request subject to the conditions discussed?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
Thank you all very much.
Looking forward to this project.
Yeah, me too. Make the sign nice.
Item 5, application of plan unit development zoning to allow for the development of 19,600 square feet of professional office-type research and development, warehouse storage and limited industrial service, wholesale trade uses on property located at 2815 West Pipkin Road. Owner, Kobabi and Kashaban Patel. Applicant JSK Consulting.
Good morning. For the record, Todd Varga with Community and Economic Development. We saw this project last month. It's located on the north side of West Pipkin Road, specifically at 2815 West Pipkin. You can see the airport, and there's West Pipkin Road right there. The subject property is just under 2.5 acres in size, and as you can see, is currently undeveloped. It was annexed into the city in 2008 as part of a larger initiative annexing 159 acres. And in 2010, it was assigned a business park future land use designation. However, for some reason at that time, zoning was not applied for. So it has no zoning, and that's why it's in as a PUD to develop. Here's a picture of the property from West Pipkin Road. Again, you can see it's undeveloped, and you can kind of see in the foreground the work being done on West Pipkin Road right there as they're widening it to four lanes. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. This is the same location, just pivoting to the west a little bit, looking at the cell tower that's on the adjacent property. Again, as we saw on the location map, the proposed development is located southeast of Lakeland Linder International Airport and on the north side of West Pipkin Road, which serves as a major east-west corridor between South Florida Avenue and County Line Road. The applicant's plans call for 2 office warehouse buildings, each approximately 9,800 square feet in size. In accordance with the comprehensive plan, the area located south and east of Old Medulla Road and north of West Pipkin Road has been identified for the future development of business park uses in support of the airport. These proposed uses the uses we're proposing with this PUD are similar to those found in Parkway Corporate Center, which is located to the east of the airport along South Pipkin Road. So we know that this these are the type of uses that will work in this area. High traffic generating uses such as retail will not be permitted under the conditions of the PUD. You can see here's the site plan, and you can see the 2 warehouse uses, and then there is a sidewalk going out to West Pipkin Road and some bike parking, and then there's some stub outs to the neighboring properties to the east and the west. Again, this is so that to get from one place to the other place, you don't have to go out onto West Pipkin Road. As this develops, if somebody wants to go from this side to the next side, we don't want them coming out onto West Pipkin Road, which is an arterial road operated by Polk County, because that is bad planning and bad traffic management. Again, West Pipkin Road is operated by Polk County and classified as an arterial roadway. In this case, due to the significance for freight movement and high-capacity connectivity to the urban core. As we all know, if we've ever driven this in the last year or two, Polk County is currently widening West Pipkin Road to 4 lanes between Medulla Road and Hardin Boulevard, and widening West Pipkin Road to 3 lanes between Hardin Boulevard and State Road 37, South Florida Avenue. Adjacent to the subject property, West Pipkin Road will have sidewalks and bicycle lanes on both sides of the roadway. Construction of these roadway improvements is expected to conclude next year in 2024. The applicant has coordinated this access point to the subject property with Polk County, so there shouldn't be an issue there. Pardon me. And I think last month there was some, this is a black and white version of the site plan. And I think last month there was some question about the uses that we were permitting on this in this PUD. So I was going to take you through some examples and the definitions. So these are the uses being permitted: office uses, non-medical, office type research and development, warehousing and motor freight transportation uses level 1, industrial service uses level 1 but not automobile towing services, and wholesale trade uses level 1. So the first use that we're permitting for the PUD is non-medical office uses, which are establishments which primarily focus on activities conducted in an office setting, such as administrative offices for businesses and government agencies, professional offices, and financial services. So examples of non-medical office uses are lawyers, accountants, architects, and engineers, financial businesses such as lenders, brokerage houses, insurance agencies, real estate agencies, and financial planners, and the like. The second use that we were permitting in the PUD is office-type research and development facilities, which are research and development activities not involving processes or activities of an industrial nature. Such uses shall include establishments performing research and development on a contract basis, as well as facilities of manufacturing or other activities performing proprietary research and development. So I think the key there is not of an industrial nature. Warehouse and motor freight transportation uses level 1. These are uses which generally have a moderate impact on their neighbors, and they include general warehousing and storage, mini warehousing and storage, outdoor storage of boats, motorhomes, trailers, and other equipment as a principal use, self-storage warehousing. So in these more industrial uses, you get into what our code, we reference these SIC groups, which stands for the Standard Industrial Classification. So we can't, the Land Development Code certainly can't list every use that's permitted or every use that exists. So we refer back to these SIC groups or Standard Industrial Classification groups in order to help us get a basket of uses that are permitted. So that's why these are going to be in the next couple ones. The next use that's permitted in the PUD, industrial type service establishments, level 1. Again, those industrial type service establishments, which generally have a moderate impact on their neighbors, including catering establishments, cleaning and maintenance services, machine shops, refrigeration and air conditioning service and repair, repair shops and related services, shops but not work or storage yards of building construction contractors, shops but not work or storage yards of special trade contractors. And again, they list some SIC groups there too to further round out the uses. I think this is the final one. Wholesale trade uses level 1. Again, they generally have a moderate impact on their neighbors and include things like electrical goods wholesale trade, furniture and home furnishings wholesale trade, hardware and plumbing and heating equipment and supplies wholesale trade, professional and commercial equipment and supplies wholesaling, sporting, recreational, toy and hobby goods wholesaling. And then with your permission, I'll go ahead and, I'll let you know that we have received no communication from the public. Nobody had any comment on this proposed PUD. And the conditions of approval, permitted uses, we've kind of already gone over this, but office uses, non-medical, office type research and development, warehousing and motor freight transportation uses, level 1, industrial service uses, level 1, but not automobile towing services, and wholesale trade uses, level 1. B, site development plan. The project shall be developed in substantial accordance with the site development plan included as attachment C. With the approval of the Director of Community and Economic Development, minor adjustments may be made at the time of site plan review without requiring a modification of, it says with this conditional use. I guess we should say planned unit development. I'll make that change for the City Commission. C, development standards in accordance with I-1/suburban special purpose context subdistrict standards. D, outdoor lighting in accordance with section 4.6 of the Land Development Code. E, transportation. 1, binding concurrency determinations shall be made at the time of each commercial site plan approval. 2, an ADA compliant pedestrian network is required between each building on site, and an ADA compliant pedestrian route is required between the new West Pipkin Road sidewalk and principal building entrances. 3, West Pipkin Road is a designated type 1 roadway per the Land Development Code. Therefore, cross-connectivity with adjacent properties is required. Cross-access easement agreements shall be recorded with the Polk County Clerk of Courts, and I think I talked about that in my presentation. Still staying with transportation. 4, the West Pipkin Road driveway throat length shall comply with section 4.2.5.2 throat length of the City Land Development Code. 5, bicycle parking shall be provided in compliance with section 4.11.6 of the Land Development Code and Index 900 of the City Engineering Standards Manual. 6, prior to first site plan submittal, a Lakeland Area Mass Transit District annexation petition shall be submitted to its Board of Directors for consideration. And 7, project shall comply with all Polk County permitting requirements. I think that's all we have for that. So I'll stand for any questions. I'm going to bring the site plan back up.
Any questions?
I need to recuse myself from this. I've submitted the paperwork. My firm's engaged by Polk County for the widening of West Pipkin Road. So any potential improvements that might come from this could benefit my firm, so I'm recusing myself from the vote.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? We have a motion, I assume, to approve?
I move to approve the plan according to city recommendation.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item 6, change in zoning from limited impact office to planned unit development to allow for professional office and limited office support retail and personal service uses on property located at 2330 Commerce Point Drive. Owners Tamar Capital LLC, Tinsley Family Properties LLC, and Practice Building LLC. Applicant James Edwards.
Hi, good morning again. For the record, Philip Scarish, Principal Planner with Community and Economic Development. The subject property consists of the Tall Oaks Business Park. It's just about 9 acres, office park, which was developed in the early 90s, as we described in last month's public hearing. This is the site right here. This is Commerce Point Drive. And this is the subject office park. The property is improved with 8 buildings with total square footage of approximately 78,931 square feet when I did the math. Until recently, most of the office space within the Tall Oaks was occupied by Summit Consulting, a provider of workers' compensation insurance products, which recently relocated to a new office building here in downtown. With the departure of Summit Consulting, the office park has had difficulty attracting new office tenants. And with the COVID-19 climate, the work from home has just gotten stronger. It's just harder to attract more office uses. So this change of rezoning to PUD will hopefully breathe some new life into this office park. The subject property has a future land use designation of Business Park Center, and it's within the urban corridor. There are questions to obtain PUD zoning to allow for limited office support, retail, and personal service uses, in addition to their current entitlements, to provide more flexibility when leasing. And that's one thing I really want to note here is the flexibility with this. This PUD will give the developer or give the property owner flexibility to respond to development trends, use trends, and respond to the market quicker than if this was just a standard O2 zoning, which would have to come back and apply for, maybe a new zoning category altogether. So the PUD will just give them flexibility as they move forward in the future. As I stated, it's about 9 acres. Again, 8 buildings, almost 80,000 square foot of uses. And I'm going to go and read the conditions. And because I want to get the conditions read because it's to describe the new list of uses. But the site plan, it's important to note here that there is no development occurring with this PUD at this time. This is kind of a what you see is what you get site plan. So this is the existing conditions that are out here on the site today with the buildings and the structures and the parking. If they want to add new buildings, they'll have to come in for a modification to the PUD. It is recommended that the request for a change of zoning from O2 to PUD as described above in attachments A, B, and C be approved subject to the following amended conditions. And we'll go through the permitted uses. I went through these last month, but we're just going to go run through them again. The permitted uses, office uses, medical, non-medical, and research and development. Office support retail uses, business development, computer stores, drugstores and pharmacies, office furniture and office supply stores, sandwich shops and snack bars. Personal service uses, barbershops, hair salons, and day spas. Business service centers, including pack and ship stores, delivery services, exercise, fitness, and martial arts studios, music and dance studios, photocopying, offset printing, similar reproduction services, tailor and dressmaking shops, tax return and preparation services, travel agencies, vet clinics, hospitals, but not kennels. And also, those uses operating under these characteristics are similar to the above as deemed compatible with surrounding uses and as determined by the Director of Community Economic Development. Community facilities, churches, synagogues, and other houses of worship, adult daycare centers, child daycare centers, vocational training for activities permitted in the district where this is located. I think that has a big potential there, which is not a permitted use in the O2, which is these vocational training centers and schools. Can be public, private, elementary. I doubt that elementary school, public elementary would locate here, but small private school, Montessori type, things like that. Healthcare and social services, blood banks, plasma collection facilities, infrastructure and transportation, communication studios, utility and essential service facilities, level 1. So your police stations, your sheriff, substations, things that of that nature can be approved here. With that said, I'll stand for any questions you may have. The applicant and his representative is here to speak on the conditions as well.
Any questions? No questions. Any other comments? No? Ready for a motion?
I move to approve the request with the conditions stated.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks.
Item 7, plat approval for the Oaks at Lake Parker on 3.54 acres generally located north of Lake Place Court, south of Heritage Landings Drive, and west of North Lake Parker Avenue. Owner, CMTG Real Estate Enterprises, applicant, JSK Consulting.
Again, for the record, Philip Scarce, Community Economic Development. We have a quick item this morning for you, a final plat or a plat approval that is for a 37-lot, basically townhome, single-family attached development. This plat has been around. It has a subdivision number of 17, so it's been around for quite a few years. We're eager to get this one approved to you. This is the plat here. Again, 37 lots. These are townhomes. There are 4 structures under development currently. The construction has advanced far enough to allow the construction of some model homes out there. And the only item remaining left is there's a water utility easement that'll have to be relocated. But that's been relocated. The easement just needs to be vacated, and they're doing that. They're going through that process as we speak. Again, we just recommend your approval for this plat. So when they are ready to get the Mylars and everything signed, we can take it and get recorded, and they can start selling lots. Stand for any questions you may have.
Any questions? Is there a motion to approve the request?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes. Thank you, sir.
Item 8, report of City Commission action on Planning and Zoning Board recommendations, along with Planning and Transportation Manager's report.
All right, well, we're almost at the finish line here. Yesterday, the city commission approved the Family Worship Center daycare, the OK Cars expansion and conditional use, the Lakeland Loft expansion downtown, as well as the Lakewire Apartments zoning change to MF22 zoning. All that was approved by the city commission yesterday. So the P&Z's recommendations were all approved. They ran the table. We've got a couple of items coming up, 3 items for the next meeting for hearing. The first is would be a conditional use to allow for a preschool at the Northside Assembly of God on Robson Street. The second would modify the PUD out at Airport Commerce Center to allow a hotel instead of the 2 fast food out parcels facing Drainfield Road. So this is very close to the Drainfield Airport intersection. And then one for the installation of a solar farm at Noah's Ark, north of Lake Craigle Park and south of State Road 33. So those are the hearings that will be coming next month.
Any other comments? Any other questions?
One thing, for this modified PUD that's coming up, just for some background, because some of these have been out there a really long time, if we could get just some of that history to help us a little bit.
We will definitely do that. What is, and I think Lakeland Central Park was definitely one where, you know, we've got these projects that have been out there for 15 or 20 years, some of them even more, and you know, why were notes put in legends, why were certain conditions, and so we will do a better job of making sure that we provide that background. But with a lot of these large projects, just conditions change over time, and we do end up needing to amend to reflect current conditions, and be as flexible as possible. But yeah, having the logic as to why we had the conditions to begin with would be very helpful.
Any other questions, Ms. Bowman? Any other questions of anybody from the department? Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned.
Thank you all.